What is so funny, and how can you be laughing at a time like this? Or how can I be laughing at a time like this? The joke of self-realization is that you've been looking in the wrong place the whole time. That you are it. The idea of searching for yourself, the way the mind has complicated this into some kind of process, is hilarious. Dragging around a bag of rocks your whole life, saying, I wish I could figure out how to put these down. And then just putting them down. That's what's so funny. It doesn't require anything to change. It does not require circumstances to improve. This is a common misconception. And people say things about how awakening is a privileged endeavor. Maybe the more prominent voices or faces in the world of spirituality, so-called, maybe those are relatively privileged experiences. And I can't confirm that. I honestly don't concern myself with that. It doesn't matter to me. The mind used to worry about this, used to say, only privileged people can awaken. I now see that that was certainly in service of the mind. If that's what I believe, that's what reality will reflect. That's how it's going to unfold. If I do not believe that I am the source of my own liberation and happiness, then I won't know. I won't know that it's right here. I won't relax. There won't be any earthly reason to relax. When I recognize that belief in the mind as me, as true self, that belief in the mind as me is the source of all resistance. When I see that, really in my bones, it's hilarious. It's hilarious that I tried so hard. And even from the perspective of knowing this in my bones, mind still tries. Mind still comes into this experience. So I'm not speaking from some, I don't know, pedestal or some far away. There's not a wall between my experience and what's actually possible. Mind still presents all kinds of scenarios to get sucked into. The only difference is that usually within a couple of seconds, it is recognized that this is happening, and then it unravels itself, and usually I start laughing really hard because it's cute. Or at least that's the way that I'm using words to interpret it, the way that a mental interpretation of what it is. When it's no longer seen as harmful, it's like, it's amusing. It is like a child. Take a child, a robot, put them together. You get this kind of mechanistic and really sort of basic, transparent invitation back into the game of chaos. As long as you recognize that that voice isn't you, it has no power. So it can be seen as amusing. That's the whole thing. So in life, in this experience, gradually and then sometimes very exponentially unfolding, sometimes mind starts to gain this foothold again, which just means that attention gets absorbed back into it, into a story. The idea that this thing that's happened is going to impact me, who I am, becomes believable, or at least compelling enough, sort of addictive enough, that attention is absorbed back in it. And every time this is recognized, it's hilarious and immediately dissolves. This is kind of all there is to this. There's so many ideas of what self-realization or enlightenment looks like. It's just the continuous recognition of your own true nature, in contrast to all that you are invited to buy into. Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't resonate for me, so how am I supposed to get there? Self-inquiry. Thoughts come up. And I ask, am I that thought? Am I that? Can I be the observer and the thought itself? Or the thinker of the thought? I'm taking delivery. I'm experiencing the thought. Can I be both? All that's out here, am I that? No, not in essence. Well, what's the difference between this and that? This is also arising effortlessly. Ultimately, if we're talking about basic functions of body that run themselves, this is no different from everything out there. So if I'm not the mind and I'm not the body, what am I? We keep sitting with this question, and it's almost ruthless, and it can feel really uncomfortable from the perspective of still being plugged into the mind's antics and any resistance that comes up to the practice. From that perspective, it can feel really bad. And then we end up finding out that this feeling of really bad is actually really flimsy and is nothing. It's just the mind presenting something, presenting an idea of reality. And the more this weakens, the more these thoughts come up, and I recognize I'm not that thought, and I don't know that that thought is true. And this is the beginning of the unraveling. This is how it becomes felt and real. That's the big joke. That's why nothing needs to change. Doesn't matter what the circumstances ultimately are, as long as there is sufficient will, not personal will. Divine will surpassing personal. Being given space. Being given attention. That's it.